Say that again. I did not hear you.
That's weird. I should be unmuted.
I just didn't hear you.
Oh, I was just saying that a local brewery makes a sake that's aged in a bourbon barrels, and I really want to try that.
Nice.
Also, this is not Elden Ring.
I know.
I know you know. Oh yeah, this chapter sucks ass.
Yep. Alright, so, yes, this is not Elden Ring. We're not live with Elden Ring. Hilda is not going to the Halig Tree, and getting absolutely stomped, like, 4 times in a row by the fucking land octopus in the hidden path to the Halig Tree, because fuck that, really fucking sucked.
We need to finish that up, I guess, but it's like, we are damn close.
Well, we already did that on Harry.
Oh yeah, fair. I guess we gotta go, we gotta go do the Halig Tree, and then we gotta go deal with the, actual Dynasty, and then I guess actually just wrap up the game.
Yeah, but what I was gonna say, you have to go to, welcome, honored guest, to the birthplace of the Mogwin dynasty. But there is, like, a few other things in, the Consecrated Snowfield we have to do. Like, we still haven't done that one cave near, Magma Worm Theodorix. I still love that you can actually, I still love that you can have a fucking Pokemon battle in the middle of Elden Ring. It's so good.
I mean, it turns out to be the optimal strat.
It is. Like, I don't know.
That dragon fucker's so fucking chunky.
Well, it's not that he's chunky. He one-shots you if you're below, like, 50 vigor. It's just, like, he just does.
Yeah, he does 1,600 damage.
Oh, yeah, I remember that.
But again, I again still feel like the last, like, 20-30% of that game just hits, I feel like hits too hard.
It hits a little too hard, yeah. That's one of the things I will,
Isn't that the point of FromSoft games?
No, actually.
Well, to an extent.
I mean, they're, like, don't get me wrong. I know that FromSoft games are extremely tightly designed, but like the difficulty, like my understanding is that the difficulty in the chat, like they're hard but fair. Like they will curb stomp you into the ground, but everything has a pattern.
Usually, sorry, go ahead.
Eat shit if you don't get the pattern.
It's like, more of that it's the FromSoft issue of by late game, if the game isn't designed with like directly having pure defensive options like Sekiro, the damage things will give you just start scaling higher than armor will ever have.
The point again has always been learn the patterns and don't get hit because getting hit will get you killed.
Let me. Okay, hey, wait, Axel. I have played more FromSoft than you. Can I say for a second? Is it okay?
Just say it. Don't ask for preamble. Don't beg for it.
I'm not begging. I just want to make sure you're okay with me interrupting or continuing because I don't want you to feel as if you're getting shut down. The short version is you are both correct. However, normally just don't get hit is the answer, but when you get hit, normally there is some cushion. There's no defense against getting one shot, but like necessarily, like there's no like hidden safety features, but especially later in the game where actually your armor and your health tends to be better, it actually tends to be a bit safer in terms of the amount of health you take per hit.
Like, you always have a health bar in FromSoft games, and you always can take some hits.
Yeah,
but,
and
like, you can't rely on it ever.
You can't. You absolutely can't, and you're not supposed to, and you're supposed to mostly focus on just not getting hit. But what I'm saying is that Elden Ring's late game is pretty consistently described, and this is one thing I would agree, as a bit of a damage spike and a bit of a health spike. There is a particular boss, a particular region, the mountaintop of the giant / the fire giant, spoilers, during which and after which, compared to everything that came before, there is a significant increase in the minimum amount of health you need to not get one shot, and a significant increase in the base amount of HP that all enemies tend to have. And
yeah.
And I'm not complaining.
I will say that, like...
Wait.
I'll say that, like, that may be true, but I have also seen unbelievable amounts of ways you can cheese Elden Ring. So Elden Ring really does just seem like one of those games where, like, yeah, the game cheats, but you can also cheat, so...
Yes, but the average player is not going to necessarily do that. But My point is not.
I would argue the opposite. I would say the average player is actually extremely likely to, if they get stuck, look up a guide and say, "Hey, what's optimal?" I would say it's the more experienced players who want to experiment and get a little more creative. Those sorts of players are going to be the ones who experiment. The average player who just wants to play and beat the game is going to be like, "Hey, I'm going to do what's optimal." It's the experienced FromSoft gamers who want to play around with the system and exploit what they can and find their own stuff. They're going to be the ones who struggle more.
I mean, well, not struggle more, but the ones who like engage with those roadblocks more. Yes, I understand.
Well, the thing about experimentation is that the only way to eventually succeed is to fail a lot. So
yes,
I would say struggle.
My point is that I'm not saying that Elden Ring is unfair or doesn't work or is poorly balanced. Some people would. I don't. But I am saying that even with all of those design elements in mind, even with everything that I agree with about what you've said, I do agree to an extent with the argument that there is a specific point in the game where the leveling curve is a little bit smoother, and then after that, it kind of spikes. That's all I'm saying. I'm not making any other judgment.
To be abundantly clear, I have not played Elden Ring.
Which is a thing in a lot of, I think, larger games that has a thing, or at least a lot of games over after a certain scale, where by the end, because usually most stuff they make is usually like the very start of the game, but the further you get in the game, the more less time they had to refine it. And I just feel
not always.
The last some games at a certain scale usually end up like this.
I disagree with that. I think it really depends entirely on the game. I mean,
yeah, it depends entirely on the game.
I mean, most games actually have the opposite problem, and that's kind of where the pushback in FromSoft games come from. Is a lot of games become easier as you go on. Like Fire Emblem becomes extremely sure, there's a ton of enemies and there's some super strong enemies in the late game, but the early game chapters are always a lot harder. Same with most first-person shooters or games like that.
I'm referring to a FromSoft game. Fair enough. I'm just referring to like a lot of like any large-scale RPG game usually.
And I would also
Bethesda games, Skyrim and Fallout. The later you go, those games are easy. You have drugs out the wazoo.
Bethesda games are very specific in how they're just kind of cheap.
Okay,
I think you're. I just think you're wrong. That's kind of what I'm saying. Is I actually think again most games get easier the more you go.
Okay,
in fact,
I'm not saying easier. I'm saying that they get like less polished because there's less. They have less time.
Okay, Axor. That's just frankly not true, Axor, because every single game has a different development cycle. Some games are going to start to develop things like in the chronological order of how players engage with them. Some of them are going to do it in a completely different order. Some of them are going to jump around and do things very differently. Yeah. You can't make a blanket statement like you just made. That's absolutely not true.
I think that's just a statement about specifics, not about the game in general. I mean, it really depends on the game, but most. I mean, I wouldn't say most because there's a ton of bad games out there. So it really, again, that's a statement that truly just depends on the game.
Yeah, but like the only game, like the game that first comes to my mind in that respect is the first Dark Souls, which follows the exact thing that you were describing, Axor, because it literally was. They designed the earlier parts first and designed the later parts last, and they ran out of time, which is why the second third of the game has a noticeable decrease in just how good anything is.
See, but I was going to say Crimson Flower, but
Well, yes, Crimson Flower is the other part where Crimson Flower Crimson Flower was the final route developed, and the final route, the way that Crimson Flower worked and that the Three Houses worked, and I'm not going to get into more arguments about routes right now, but I'll just say that as a matter of fact is that Silver Snow was the first route developed, and then it was always actually intended to be the only route you would do as the Black Eagles, because the big twist was that, you actually lose your lord, and you are the lord, etc. In a sense. And then some of the dev team wanted Eldegard to be playable, so after Azure Moon and Verdant Wind were done, which Verdant Wind was the easiest to develop because, not entirely, but largely used Silver Snow.
Also just a ton of lore, so it makes sense that they had it fleshed out, because Silver Snow really is, or not Silver Snow, sorry, but Verdant Wind is really kind of the complete game in its own way. It's also